Imagine a world long gone, a civilization so advanced, so powerful, that it left behind stories of its greatness, only to vanish without a trace. A world so vast that its influence spread across oceans, mountains, and deserts, touching every corner of the known world. And yet, after the dust of time settled, all that remained was a whisper in the winds of legend, a name that would echo through history: Atlantis. But what if Atlantis wasn't a myth? What if the grand empire never truly disappeared, but instead went underground, hiding its secrets for millennia? For centuries, Atlantis has been the subject of fascination and speculation. The tale of a mighty kingdom destroyed by the gods, sinking into the depths of the sea, has captivated countless minds across the globe. From Plato's dialogues to the writings of ancient philosophers, the legend of Atlantis has been passed down, each retelling adding new layers of mystery. Yet, what if the truth is far more complex, far more profound than we have been led to believe? Could it be that the royal bloodline of Atlantis, far from being wiped out, has survived to this very day? What if the descendants of Atlantis rulers have lived in the shadows, quietly shaping history and keeping the secrets of their ancient kingdom hidden from the world? This possibility raises more questions than it answers. How could such an ancient and powerful lineage survive centuries of warfare, invasions, and upheaval? What clues could be left for us to discover in the ancient maps, artifacts, and legends that have been preserved through time? The idea of a royal bloodline surviving the destruction of Atlantis is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Ancient texts and myths from cultures around the world seem to suggest that such a possibility exists. The Egyptians, for example, were said to have preserved the knowledge of Atlantis in their sacred teachings, passing it down through the ages. Their priests, the keepers of forbidden knowledge, were rumored to be the descendants of those who escaped the destruction of Atlantis. The same bloodline might have influenced the rulers of other ancient civilizations, from the Greeks to the Romans, from the Sumerians to the Persians. Could it be that Atlantis, in its final moments, sent its royal family into the farthest reaches of the world to keep the flame of their empire alive? But let's not jump ahead just yet. The journey into the secrets of Atlantis' royal lineage begins with a question that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for generations. What was Atlantis, really? Was it a mythic civilization, a poetic metaphor for the downfall of human pride, as Plato suggested? Or was it a real, tangible empire that once spanned the globe, only to be erased from history by those who sought to control the narrative of the past? Plato's account of Atlantis, found in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, is the most widely known source of information about this lost civilization. He describes Atlantis as a powerful island nation located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, modern-day Gibraltar. This empire, according to Plato, was advanced in every way. Its people were skilled in architecture, navigation, and warfare, and they ruled over a vast territory. However, despite their great power, Atlantis fell into moral decay. The gods, displeased with their arrogance, decided to punish the Atlanteans by sinking their island beneath the sea. Plato's narrative, however, is not just a story of destruction. It is a warning about the dangers of hubris and the consequences of unchecked power. Yet, if we look closer at Plato's account, a different story begins to emerge. He describes Atlantis not as a distant fairy tale, but as a real place, a civilization with tangible features, a culture with specific names, places, and events. Plato's Atlantis is more than just an allegory. It's a potential history that has been lost to time. The idea that Atlantis might have been real, a kingdom with real rulers, challenges our understanding of the ancient world and opens the door to an entirely new possibility: that Atlantis' royal bloodline did not perish, but instead found ways to survive. For years, the mainstream view of Atlantis has been shaped by the assumption that the civilization was nothing more than myth. Archaeologists and historians have dismissed the idea of a real, physically existing Atlantis as fantasy. But new discoveries and a re-evaluation of ancient texts suggest that the tale of Atlantis may hold more truth than previously thought. For instance, the Piri Reis map, a 16th century Turkish map, shows the coast of Antarctica completely ice-free, long before the continent was covered in ice. This map has baffled scholars, as it depicts a geographical reality that could not have been known to Europeans at the time. How did this map, and others like it, come to be? And more importantly, what secrets do they hold about Atlantis and its royal lineage? The Piri Reis map is just one example of how ancient cartography can offer clues to lost civilizations. For centuries, maps have been used not only to navigate the world, but also to encode hidden knowledge. In the case of Atlantis, some theorists believe that ancient maps may have preserved the true locations of lost lands, places that were once part of a vast Atlantean empire. These maps, often created by explorers, traders, and navigators from civilizations that claim to have survived the destruction of Atlantis, could be the key to unlocking the mystery of the royal lineage. But where does the bloodline of Atlantis fit into all of this? The concept of a royal bloodline, passed down through generations, is not unique to Atlantis. Throughout history, many dynasties have claimed to be descended from gods, from divine ancestors, or from ancient civilizations. In Egypt, for example, the pharaohs were believed to be the direct descendants of the gods, specifically the sun god Ra. In many ways, the Egyptians may have seen themselves as the spiritual heirs to Atlantis, preserving its knowledge and culture after the island's destruction. The same can be said for other cultures, such as the Sumerians, the Babylonians, and the Greeks, each of whom held onto fragments of Atlantean knowledge. As we begin to trace these royal bloodlines, we start to see patterns emerging, patterns that suggest the possibility of an ancient dynasty, one that stretches back thousands of years. Could it be that the royal family of Atlantis, in its final days, split into multiple branches and fled to different parts of the world? What if these branches became the rulers of other great civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Phoenicians, the Romans to the Byzantines? What if their descendants still walk among us today, guarding the secrets of Atlantis, knowing the truth about their origins, but keeping it hidden from the world? This journey is just beginning. As we explore the history, the maps, the prophecies, and the hidden artifacts that may point to Atlantis' lost dynasty, we must remain open to the possibility that the true story of Atlantis is far more complex than we could ever have imagined. What if the royal bloodline of Atlantis is not a thing of the past, but a living force still shaping the course of history in ways we can barely comprehend? The answer may be closer than we think, lying just beneath the surface of our understanding, waiting to be uncovered. And so, we stand at the precipice of a great discovery, one that could change everything we know about the past. The mystery of Atlantis and its royal lineage is not just a story of a lost civilization. It is a story of survival, of secrets passed down through the ages, and of a powerful bloodline that has shaped the course of history for millennia. The question is not whether Atlantis existed, but what lies hidden in the shadows of its royal legacy. And perhaps, just perhaps, the answers we seek have always been with us, waiting to be discovered. For centuries, the story of Atlantis has captivated minds across the world, becoming one of the most enduring myths in human history. Its origins trace back to the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who first introduced the fabled island in his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. According to Plato, Atlantis was a vast island civilization, larger than Libya and Asia combined, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. It was a place of unimaginable wealth, technological advancement, and power, ruled by a proud and noble people. However, as quickly as it rose, Atlantis vanished beneath the sea in a cataclysmic event, seemingly erased from the face of the earth. Plato's tale, though captivating, has led to centuries of speculation. Was Atlantis a real place? Was it just a figment of Plato's imagination, a mythological story crafted to illustrate philosophical lessons about human nature, hubris, and the fall of civilizations? For centuries, historians, archaeologists, and explorers have debated the validity of the Atlantis story, often dismissing it as nothing more than allegory. Yet, as time has passed, a growing number of researchers and theorists have begun to challenge this conventional view. What if Plato's account wasn't merely a parable, but a distorted record of a real, lost civilization? And if so, where is Atlantis now? The idea of Atlantis as a real place, long believed to be an exaggeration or even a fabrication, has gained traction in recent years. Ancient texts from cultures across the world seem to echo elements of Plato's story, hinting that Atlantis wasn't just a Greek myth. From the Egyptians to the Mesoamerican civilizations, many ancient cultures seem to preserve fragmented memories of a time when the world was different, when a great empire ruled the seas and wielded power unlike any other civilization. One of the key pieces of evidence that has fueled this resurgence of interest in the idea of Atlantis as a real civilization comes from ancient maps. While the notion of ancient cartography might seem straightforward to modern minds, many of these maps contain peculiarities that challenge our understanding of the past. Take, for example, the Piri Reis map, a 16th century Turkish map that depicts parts of the Americas, Europe, and Africa. What makes the Piri Reis map particularly intriguing is the accurate depiction of the northern coast of Antarctica, a landmass that, as we know today, is covered in miles of ice. The map suggests that the ancient cartographers had access to knowledge about the world that shouldn't have been available to them at the time. This revelation raises a critical question. If ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptians or the Atlanteans, had knowledge of places that had not yet been discovered by the modern world, could they have had access to a lost body of knowledge? Perhaps even records of a civilization that had long since disappeared? Could these maps be remnants of a forgotten world, passed down through secret societies or protected by ancient rulers to preserve the legacy of a long-lost empire? To understand why this is such a compelling idea, we must first look at what Plato actually said about Atlantis. In Critias, he describes Atlantis as an island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar. The island was ruled by a powerful king, who was said to be a descendant of Poseidon, the god of the sea. Atlantis, according to Plato, was a thriving, technologically advanced civilization with a culture built on abundance, harmony, and prosperity. Its people were said to have mastered metallurgy, engineering, and agriculture. They built magnificent cities, including a grand capital made up of concentric rings of land and water. However, as the centuries passed, the Atlanteans became increasingly corrupt and greedy, eventually losing their connection to the divine. In Plato's version of the story, the gods, angered by the arrogance and moral decay of Atlantis, decided to punish the civilization. In a single day and night, Atlantis was swallowed by the ocean, sinking into the depths of the sea. The island, along with its magnificent cities and its once mighty people, vanished without a trace. According to Plato, Atlantis was lost to history, but its memory lived on in the myths and legends of the ancient world. This account, however, leaves us with several important questions. First, why would Plato, who was known for his deep philosophical writings, suddenly include a tale of such fantastic proportions? Was this a literal account, or was it a symbolic story meant to warn against the dangers of pride and hubris? Plato's dialogues were filled with allegories, so it's possible that his description of Atlantis was meant to serve as a moral lesson. However, there are several compelling reasons to believe that Plato's account might not have been purely fictional. For one, Plato wasn't the only ancient figure to mention a lost civilization that resembled Atlantis. The Egyptian priest Solon, who appears in Plato's dialogues, allegedly visited Egypt and was told by the Egyptian priests about a great civilization that had existed long before their time. According to the priests, this civilization had been destroyed in a catastrophic event, much like the story of Atlantis. The fact that Solon, who was a prominent figure in ancient Greece, was supposedly told of this ancient civilization by Egyptian priests raises questions about the validity of Plato's tale. Could the story of Atlantis have originated in Egypt, passed down through generations before finding its way into Plato's writings? Furthermore, other ancient cultures seem to have preserved legends of a great lost civilization. The Mayans, for example, spoke of an advanced people who once lived on a vast continent, only to see it sink beneath the sea. Similarly, the ancient Sumerians tell tales of a great city, Eridu, which was said to be the first city of the gods. In South America, the Incas also have legends of an ancient civilization that was swallowed by the earth. These stories, spread across different continents and cultures, all contain striking similarities to Plato's account of Atlantis. Could these be the distant echoes of a shared memory of a real place, long lost to time? The more we explore ancient records and myths, the more evidence we find that suggests the story of Atlantis may have been based on a real civilization. But where exactly did this civilization exist? Plato's description of Atlantis points to an island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, but that's not enough to pinpoint its location with any certainty. Over the centuries, researchers have proposed various theories about the location of Atlantis, from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean to Antarctica. Some even suggest that Atlantis was located in the Middle East near the Persian Gulf, where ancient flood myths and stories of great cities match Plato's descriptions. One of the most intriguing possibilities is that Atlantis was located in the Mediterranean, specifically around the region of the Aegean Sea. The Minoan civilization, which thrived on the island of Crete around 1600 BCE, shares many similarities with Plato's description of Atlantis. The Minoans were an advanced seafaring people with a complex society, remarkable architecture, and extensive trade networks. They also experienced a sudden and dramatic collapse around 1450 BCE, possibly due to a natural disaster, such as a volcanic eruption or a tsunami, events that could have been interpreted as divine retribution. Could the Minoans have been the survivors of Atlantis, or were they part of a larger civilization that perished when the island sank into the sea? As we search for clues in the myths and maps of ancient civilizations, it becomes clear that the story of Atlantis is far from a simple myth. The more we dig into the record of the past, the more evidence we find that suggests Atlantis was not just a mythological construct, but a memory of a real civilization that once existed, and perhaps still does, in some form, hidden from our view. The royal lineage of Atlantis, as Plato described it, may have been more than just a tale of ancient kings. It could have been the seed of a dynasty that has persisted through the ages, quietly shaping the course of history from the shadows. The question remains, could the royal bloodline of Atlantis still exist today, its descendants living among us, unaware of their true heritage? Or have the secrets of Atlantis been lost forever, buried beneath the sands of time and the depths of the ocean? The search for answers is just beginning, and as new discoveries are made, we may one day uncover the truth about the lost kingdom of Atlantis and the royal family that ruled it. The search for the lost civilization of Atlantis has always been tantalizing, with many theories and legends surrounding the mysterious empire that Plato first described. One of the most compelling and perplexing aspects of this search lies in the ancient maps that have surfaced throughout history. Maps that seem to depict lands, places, and coastlines that were not known to have existed in the times of their creation. These maps, often considered mere curiosities or misinterpretations, have sparked a new wave of speculation and inquiry, leading many to ask, could these ancient maps contain hidden knowledge, a forgotten cartography passed down through secret societies or ancient civilizations? More specifically, could they hold the key to discovering Atlantis? Ancient maps have been a tool of great importance throughout human history, providing not only practical guidance for travelers and explorers, but also revealing, often inadvertently, information about the world as understood by past civilizations. Today, we consider maps as simple and reliable tools, but in ancient times, maps were more than just a guide to the known world. They were also deeply intertwined with mythology, power, and secret knowledge. These maps weren't just about geography. They were about understanding the very fabric of the world, interpreting cosmic alignments, and often encoding hidden truths that could reveal profound secrets. One of the most famous and mysterious of these maps is the Piri-Reis map, created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri-Reis. This map is famous for its incredibly detailed depiction of the Americas and Europe, as well as the northern coastline of Antarctica. The latter is particularly intriguing, as it depicts the coast of Antarctica without its ice cap, an impossible feat given that Antarctica has been covered by a thick sheet of ice for millions of years. The Piri-Reis map shows this part of the world as it would have appeared without the ice, offering a glimpse into a time long before the continent became frozen. How could a map created in the early 16th century accurately depict a landmass that was not known to have existed, let alone to have been explored in that era? The map's inclusion of Antarctica, which was only discovered in 1820, raises an unsettling question. Where did the mapmakers obtain their information? How did they know of this hidden land? Some researchers believe that the Piri-Reis map could be based on much older sources, perhaps even from a time when ancient civilizations, such as Atlantis, had access to knowledge about lands that were later submerged by the sea. This notion invites us to consider a far-reaching possibility that Atlantis, as described by Plato, may have been a civilization whose maps and knowledge were preserved, passed down through the ages, and even encoded into these mysterious maps. Could it be that the survivors of Atlantis, after their island sank into the ocean, retained their ancient knowledge and navigational skills, passing them on to later civilizations? And could the Piri-Reis map, and other ancient maps like it, be the remnants of this lost knowledge, encoded with clues to the location of Atlantis? As we explore this idea, it's essential to examine the broader context of ancient cartography. Ancient maps were often created with different motivations than those we use today. Instead of focusing purely on geographical accuracy, ancient mapmakers were concerned with symbolizing the relationship between the known world and the forces of the cosmos. For instance, the Babylonians created star maps that represented not only the constellations but also the divine order of the universe. Similarly, ancient Egyptians designed maps that aligned with the stars, connecting their earthly realm to the heavens. These maps were not just navigational aids, but symbolic representations of the world's mystical and spiritual dimensions. One of the key features of ancient maps is the way they blended the physical and the metaphysical, often presenting places of power and significance, such as temples, mountains, and rivers, as essential landmarks. These maps were often based on ancient knowledge, passed down from generation to generation, sometimes over long stretches of time. This means that these maps could have been influenced by the knowledge of lost civilizations, like Atlantis, whose geographical, spiritual, and astronomical understanding far exceeded what we would have expected of their era. Maps such as the Tabula Rogeriana, a medieval map created by the Arab geographer Al-Idrisi in 1154, demonstrate the ways in which ancient knowledge was often retained, transferred, and altered over time. This map shows a depiction of Europe, Asia, and Africa that is strikingly accurate in many respects, but also includes references to lands that were unknown to the medieval world, suggesting that ancient knowledge from civilizations such as Egypt, Mesopotamia, and even Atlantis could have been passed down through generations, influencing later explorers. Other maps, such as the Henricus Martellus world map from the 15th century, depict parts of the world that were not yet discovered by European explorers. The map, which shows a large, unexplored landmass in the southern hemisphere, possibly Australia or even Antarctica, has led some researchers to believe that ancient civilizations, such as those that may have descended from Atlantis, had already explored these regions long before the age of exploration. This idea becomes even more fascinating when we consider the possibility that these ancient civilizations may have used advanced navigation techniques, including the use of the stars, ocean currents, and wind patterns to travel great distances. This kind of knowledge would have been essential for the survival of a seafaring empire like Atlantis, whose reach, according to Plato, extended across vast expanses of the ocean. The knowledge of stars and navigation would have been passed down through generations, encoded in the maps that these civilizations created. One particular map that has been heavily scrutinized in this context is the Orontius Phineus map, created in 1531, which depicts the northern part of Antarctica, again without the ice cap. The map, which is known for its surprising accuracy, suggests that there may have been ancient civilizations with knowledge of the world geography that far exceeded what should have been possible in the 16th century. How did the mapmakers have access to such detailed information? Could they have inherited this knowledge from earlier civilizations, including Atlantis? The fact that these maps contain references to lands that were unknown at the time they were created suggests that they were based on much older, more accurate sources. Some theorists believe that these maps are evidence of an ancient world that existed long before the known civilizations of Greece, Egypt, and Rome. These maps, with their detailed depictions of Antarctica, the Americas, and other distant lands, could be the remnants of the cartography used by a lost civilization, Atlantis. However, if these maps are indeed the remnants of Atlantean knowledge, the question becomes, why would such maps have been hidden or suppressed? The answer may lie in the concept of secret societies and their role in preserving ancient knowledge. Throughout history, many secret societies, such as the Freemasons, the Knights Templar, and other groups, have been believed to guard ancient wisdom, including the secrets of lost civilizations. These societies may have been aware of the true history of Atlantis, and, through their possession of these maps, could have preserved and passed down this knowledge in secret. There's also the possibility that these maps were deliberately altered or destroyed by those in power to suppress knowledge that could destabilize their authority. Throughout history, empires and kingdoms have gone to great lengths to suppress information that threatens their control over the masses. By hiding the truth about Atlantis and its advanced knowledge, these ruling powers could maintain their dominance over the known world. Yet, despite these efforts, traces of Atlantis' legacy continue to surface, encoded in the maps, artifacts, and myths that have been preserved through the ages. The existence of these ancient maps that depict unknown lands, mysterious coastlines, and advanced civilizations, raises the possibility that the story of Atlantis may not be a myth after all. Rather, it could be the tale of a real civilization, whose knowledge was passed down through secret channels and encoded into the very maps that have guided explorers, navigators, and scholars for centuries. The question remains, could these ancient maps be more than just curiosities of the past? Could they be the key to unlocking the mystery of Atlantis, a long-lost civilization whose royal bloodline may still exist today, hidden beneath layers of time and history? Only time and further research will reveal the true nature of these maps and whether they hold the answers to one of history's greatest mysteries. Plato's account of Atlantis, as recorded in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, has been one of the most enduring and captivating stories in the annals of human history. For centuries, scholars and enthusiasts have tried to decipher the meaning behind his narrative, attempting to separate fact from fiction, truth from allegory. At the core of this enigma lies the very question: was Atlantis a real civilization, or was it merely a philosophical tool Plato used to illustrate his ideas about politics, morality, and human nature? What if the civilization he described wasn't a mere myth but was based on a real place, one that existed long before Plato's time and left behind a legacy that still echoes through history? Plato presents Atlantis as an island larger than Libya and Asia combined, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, today's Strait of Gibraltar. The island was a powerful, technologically advanced civilization that enjoyed great prosperity and harmony. The people of Atlantis, according to Plato, were descendants of the gods, ruled by a king named Atlas, who was the son of Poseidon. The island was a marvel of architecture, with sprawling cities, vast temples, and magnificent canals that connected the various districts. Atlantis was rich in resources and knowledge, and its rulers were said to have been just and wise, living in peace and abundance. However, As the story progresses, Atlantis begins to fall into moral decay. The rulers, once virtuous and noble, become corrupted by their power and wealth. They lose their connection to the divine and begin to engage in wars of conquest, seeking to expand their empire across the known world. This arrogance and greed provoke the gods, who, angered by the Atlanteans' hubris, decide to punish them. In a single day and night, the island of Atlantis is swallowed by the sea, disappearing without a trace. Plato's tale of Atlantis, though rich in detail and imagination, is often read as a cautionary allegory, a story warning against the dangers of pride, the inevitability of downfall when societies stray from moral righteousness, and the consequences of human excess. Yet, as compelling as Plato's narrative is, it leaves us with a series of unsettling questions. Why would a philosopher of Plato's stature, known for his reasoned and methodical approach to philosophy, include such a fantastical tale in his works? Was Atlantis truly an allegory designed to serve as a lesson about the fleeting nature of power, or could it be based on something more grounded in reality? Did Plato perhaps tell a story that was rooted in the memories of a real place, a civilization that had been lost to time, but whose echoes survive in myth and legend? Some researchers have argued that Plato's Atlantis was not just a philosophical fiction, but a distorted recollection of a real historical event, an ancient catastrophe that wiped out a powerful civilization. These theories posit that Atlantis was a real island kingdom, perhaps located in the Mediterranean or the Atlantic, whose downfall may have been triggered by a natural disaster. This event, remembered by survivors, may have been passed down through generations, eventually forming the basis for the Atlantis myth that Plato later recorded. If this is the case, then the true story of Atlantis is likely far more complex than Plato's dialogue suggests, and it could be the key to understanding the fate of ancient civilizations that were lost to the sea. The idea that Plato's Atlantis was based on a real civilization is bolstered by certain details in his account. For one, Plato describes Atlantis in strikingly specific terms: the island's geography, its cities, its technology, and its culture. While many of these elements can be interpreted as symbolic, some suggest that Plato's description might have been drawn from an actual place he was familiar with. For instance, the geographical features of Atlantis, its concentric circles of land and water, may point to real cities and architectural features that existed in Plato's time, possibly based on older Mediterranean civilizations. Furthermore, the idea that Atlantis was an island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules in the Atlantic was not inherently out of place for the ancient Greeks, who had limited knowledge of distant lands beyond their borders. In fact, several ancient cultures, including the Egyptians, seem to have preserved their own versions of the Atlantis story, which adds weight to the idea that Plato's account was not purely invented. According to Plato, the Egyptian priests he consulted during his travels told him of a great civilization that had once existed in the distant past, a civilization that had fallen into the sea. This civilization was described as a kingdom so vast and powerful that it rivaled the gods themselves. These Egyptian records of a lost civilization match Plato's description of Atlantis, suggesting that the story may have originated from older traditions, possibly even as far back as the pre-Greek era. The idea of a lost civilization sinking beneath the sea is not unique to Plato. Cultures around the world have similar legends. The ancient Sumerians spoke of a great city called Eridu, which was said to be the first city of the gods. The Mayans had stories of a place called the City of the Gods that was submerged in the ocean, and the Hawaiians have legends of a sunken kingdom known as Mu. These tales, which originate in regions far removed from one another, suggest that there may be some kernel of truth to the story of Atlantis, a memory of a once great civilization whose physical and cultural legacy was lost in a cataclysmic event. As we examine Plato's account more closely, we are struck by the level of detail he provides. For example, he describes the city of Atlantis as having grand canals that were used for transportation, as well as massive walls made of precious metals, including orichalcum, a mysterious alloy that some believe was a form of copper or bronze. He also details the vast wealth and resources of the island, including an abundance of rare metals, such as gold and silver. The rulers of Atlantis were said to possess great knowledge and wisdom, having inherited the divine gifts of Poseidon, who had given them control over the seas. The Atlanteans built magnificent temples and palaces, and their cities were renowned for their beauty and grandeur. The precise and elaborate nature of these descriptions suggests that Plato was either recounting a real place or constructing a fictional narrative that borrowed heavily from real-world events. Could these details be based on actual civilizations that Plato encountered in his travels, or through the knowledge passed down by the Egyptians? In particular, the references to orichalcum and the advanced technology of the Atlanteans have led some scholars to speculate that Atlantis might have been a civilization with a level of technological advancement that exceeded even that of ancient Greece. If this is the case, then the story of Atlantis becomes even more intriguing, suggesting that ancient civilizations may have possessed knowledge and technology far beyond what we have traditionally attributed to them. While some may dismiss Plato's account as mere allegory, others argue that the evidence points to the possibility that Atlantis was a real civilization that existed long before recorded history. Over the years, a number of locations have been proposed as the site of Atlantis, from the Mediterranean islands of Santorini and Crete to the Caribbean and even Antarctica. Each of these theories has its own merits, though none have provided definitive proof. However, the consistent appearance of Atlantis in ancient myths and the similarities between Plato's description and other cultural stories suggest that there may be more to the legend than meets the eye. One compelling aspect of Plato's account is the idea that Atlantis was not just an ordinary island, but a place of great spiritual and intellectual significance. The Atlanteans were said to have been taught by the gods themselves, and their wisdom was passed down through generations. This idea of divine wisdom and knowledge resonates with other ancient cultures that revered their rulers as gods or semi-divine figures. In many ways, the story of Atlantis reflects a deeper truth about humanity's relationship with the divine and the mysteries of the universe, an idea that transcends the boundaries of time and culture. In the end, Plato's account of Atlantis raises more questions than it answers. Was he simply recounting an ancient myth, or was he preserving a fragment of history that has been lost to time? The answer to this question may lie in the many clues that remain hidden in the myths, maps, and archaeological discoveries that continue to emerge. As we dig deeper into the mystery of Atlantis, we begin to see that the line between myth and history is not always as clear as we once thought. The story of Atlantis, with its rich tapestry of gods, kings, and lost wisdom, may be more than just a cautionary tale. It may be a key to understanding the ancient world and the hidden forces that shaped it. As we delve deeper into the mystery of Atlantis, it becomes increasingly clear that the tale is far more intricate and layered than a mere fable or philosophical allegory. It is a story that has woven its way through cultures and civilizations across time, its echoes reaching from the ancient Greeks to the Egyptians, and even into the far corners of the world where isolated societies have maintained their own versions of the Lost Kingdom. There is an undeniable connection between the myth of Atlantis and the secret societies, ancient prophecies, and even modern political structures that have shaped the world we know today. Could these connections hold the key to understanding the true legacy of Atlantis, its royal bloodline, and its impact on the course of human history? Could it be that the search for Atlantis is not just a quest for lost treasure or ancient ruins, but a search for the hidden truth that has been deliberately obscured for centuries? The concept of a hidden or suppressed history is not new. Throughout the ages, certain groups and institutions have sought to control knowledge, often preserving secrets that could alter the way we view the past. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Atlantis myth is the way in which it has been preserved through secret societies, groups whose purpose, at least in part, was to safeguard and transmit ancient wisdom. From the Freemasons to the Knights Templar, These societies have long been rumored to possess knowledge about lost civilizations, secret maps, and ancient prophecies, many of which seem to point toward the existence of Atlantis and its royal lineage. One of the central ideas that these secret societies are believed to hold is the notion of hidden knowledge, a body of wisdom passed down from ancient times that has been intentionally kept out of the public eye. This knowledge is thought to encompass not just spiritual and philosophical teachings, but also practical, scientific, and technological information that could have been lost or forgotten in the wake of great catastrophes like the destruction of Atlantis. This body of wisdom, often referred to as the esoteric knowledge, is believed to have been passed down through generations of initiates, preserved in coded texts, symbols, and even in the architecture of ancient buildings. Some of these secrets, it is said, can only be understood by those who are able to decipher the hidden messages embedded in these symbols and texts. The idea that secret societies possess knowledge of Atlantis and its royal bloodline can be traced back to ancient Egypt. The Egyptians, with their advanced understanding of geometry, astronomy, and the mysteries of the cosmos, were thought to have preserved many of the teachings and knowledge that could have originated in Atlantis. The priests of Egypt were believed to be the keepers of this ancient wisdom, passed down from the time of the gods, and some have speculated that the Egyptian priesthood played a key role in the survival of Atlantean knowledge. After the fall of Atlantis, these priests might have been among the survivors who fled to Egypt and other parts of the world, bringing with them the sacred texts and teachings that would later form the foundation of Egyptian civilization. In fact, many ancient texts and traditions, including those from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, contain references to a great civilization that existed before Egypt and other known cultures. Some scholars have speculated that these references point to Atlantis as the lost civilization in question. The Egyptians, it is believed, were the inheritors of the wisdom of Atlantis, passing down their knowledge through the ages in a carefully guarded tradition. This knowledge, encoded in sacred rituals, symbols, and texts, was not just for the benefit of the ruling class, but was intended to preserve the connection between humanity and the divine, an essential concept in both Atlantean and Egyptian thought. As the story of Atlantis spread across the ancient world, it is likely that its influence reached beyond Egypt, touching the cultures of Mesopotamia, Greece, and beyond. In fact, the legendary wisdom of Atlantis may have shaped the very foundations of Western civilization. The ancient Greeks, for instance, were deeply influenced by the knowledge of the Egyptians and other Eastern cultures. Plato himself, in his dialogues, makes frequent references to the teachings of Egyptian priests and their knowledge of the distant past. Could it be that Plato's story of Atlantis was more than just a philosophical parable? Was it a recounting of a time when the ruling families of Atlantis, possibly descendants of the gods, were connected to the ancient mysteries that underpinned all the great civilizations of the ancient world? The royal lineage of Atlantis, as described by Plato, was said to be directly descended from Poseidon, the god of the sea. The Atlantean rulers, known as the sons of Poseidon, were said to have inherited divine knowledge and authority over the seas. This connection to the divine and the notion that the royal family was imbued with supernatural power is a recurring theme in many ancient cultures. The idea of divine kingship, rulers who were thought to be directly descended from the gods, was a common belief in many ancient societies. From the pharaohs of Egypt to the kings of Mesopotamia, rulers were often seen as gods or as having been chosen by the gods to lead their people. This concept of divine kingship and the idea that the royal bloodline of Atlantis was directly linked to Poseidon raises intriguing questions about the true nature of the Atlantean rulers. Were they simply powerful kings who ruled over a vast and wealthy empire? Or were they, in some sense, the guardians of a deeper spiritual wisdom? If the royal lineage of Atlantis was indeed connected to the gods, could their bloodline have survived the destruction of the island, hidden away in secret societies or distant corners of the world? As we examine the history of secret societies, we find that many of these groups have been rumored to trace their origins back to ancient civilizations, including Atlantis. The Freemasons, perhaps the most famous of these societies, have long been associated with the preservation of ancient knowledge. Some believe that the Freemasons, through their elaborate rituals and secret symbols, have kept the teachings of Atlantis alive, passing them down through generations of initiates. The Freemasons, in particular, are said to possess hidden knowledge of the lost civilizations, including the possibility that the royal bloodline of Atlantis still exists today, hidden within their ranks. The Knights Templar, another secretive group with a long history of involvement in mystery and intrigue, are also believed by some to have played a role in preserving the knowledge of Atlantis. The Templars were deeply interested in ancient texts, relics, and mysteries, and some researchers have speculated that they might have had access to lost Atlantean knowledge. According to some theories, the Templars may have even discovered ancient Atlantean artifacts or documents during their travels to the Middle East, particularly in areas that were once part of the ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian empires. These artifacts, it is believed, could contain vital information about the true origins of Atlantis and its royal lineage. The connection between secret societies and the legacy of Atlantis doesn't stop with the Freemasons or the Knights Templar. Many other secretive organizations, from the Rosicrucians to the Illuminati, have been rumored to possess knowledge of Atlantis. The Rosicrucians, a mystical and esoteric order that emerged in Europe during the 17th century, are said to have drawn on ancient wisdom that traces back to Atlantis and Egypt. Similarly, the Illuminati, often associated with conspiracy theories and shadowy global influence, are believed by some to be the inheritors of an ancient tradition of knowledge that includes the secrets of Atlantis. This network of secret societies, each with its own agenda and philosophy, may hold the key to understanding the fate of Atlantis and its royal lineage. Could it be that the descendants of Atlantis, knowing the catastrophic potential of their own bloodline, have hidden themselves away, preserving their knowledge and power through these secretive groups? Have they maintained control over the course of history, shaping the world behind the scenes, while remaining hidden from the public eye? The very idea that the royal bloodline of Atlantis could still exist today, its members quietly working through secret societies, using their ancient knowledge to influence the course of history, adds a new layer of intrigue to the mystery. If this bloodline has survived, what role do they play in the modern world? Could it be that the descendants of Atlantis are among the most powerful and influential figures in history, their identities concealed behind layers of secrecy and power? The search for the truth about Atlantis, its royal lineage, and its legacy is not just about uncovering lost artifacts or ancient maps. It's about unraveling a deeper mystery that has been hidden for millennia. Could it be that the royal bloodline of Atlantis is not just a relic of the past, but a living force continuing to shape the world today? As we piece together the fragments of the Atlantis story, we begin to see that the mystery is far from over. It may be a puzzle that is still being solved in our own time, its answers waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to look beneath the surface of history. As the exploration of Atlantis continues, one of the most intriguing and enigmatic aspects of the mystery lies in the idea of a hidden, royal bloodline that might still exist in the modern world. The concept that the rulers of Atlantis were not just powerful kings and queens, but were, in fact, directly descended from the gods, adds an entirely new layer to the story. These rulers, according to Plato, were not merely human. They were divinely chosen, with their lineage tracing back to Poseidon, the god of the sea. This divine heritage may have conferred upon them an extraordinary connection to esoteric knowledge, spiritual wisdom, and technological advancements that set them apart from ordinary mortals. As the legend of Atlantis suggests, these rulers governed over a civilization far more advanced than any others of their time, with capabilities that modern science struggles to fully comprehend. But if Atlantis was destroyed, what happened to the royal bloodline? Did it truly vanish beneath the waves? Or is it possible that the descendants of Atlantis have survived in secret, hidden from the world, safeguarding their knowledge and power through the ages? One of the most compelling aspects of the Atlantis story is the idea of an ancient royal lineage that might have lived on after the destruction of their island. According to Plato, the royal family of Atlantis was composed of 10 kings, each ruling over different regions of the island, all of whom were descendants of Poseidon. The city itself, Atlantis, was said to be divided into concentric rings of land and water, with the king's palaces positioned in the center. The kings were thought to possess not just political power, but a divine right to rule, granted to them by their godly ancestry. This divine heritage may have given them access to advanced technologies, esoteric knowledge, and mystical powers that were lost with the fall of their civilization. If the royal lineage of Atlantis was indeed tied to Poseidon, the god of the sea, it raises a fascinating possibility. Could the descendants of Atlantis still possess access to the ancient knowledge and wisdom that the Atlanteans had? Were they the keepers of esoteric secrets, passed down through generations, and perhaps even encoded in religious rites, symbols, and myths? And if so, could this royal bloodline have survived the cataclysmic destruction of Atlantis, seeking refuge in other lands, preserving their lineage through secret societies and hidden teachings? The idea that the royal bloodline of Atlantis could still exist today has been a topic of speculation for centuries. Many theorists and researchers suggest that the survivors of Atlantis, or their descendants, may have dispersed to other parts of the world, blending into the fabric of other cultures while maintaining their secret knowledge. These survivors might have founded or influenced civilizations such as Egypt, Sumer, and ancient Greece, embedding their advanced knowledge into the very foundations of these societies. Some even believe that the bloodline of Atlantis has remained hidden, secreted away in specific families or organizations throughout history, subtly shaping the world's events from behind the scenes. The most intriguing aspect of this theory is the idea that certain secret societies, such as the Freemasons, the Knights Templar, and other esoteric groups, might be the custodians of this ancient knowledge. These societies, often associated with hidden rituals, symbols, and mysteries, have long been linked to the preservation of arcane wisdom. Many have speculated that these groups are not just interested in spiritual or philosophical enlightenment, but in the preservation of ancient, technological, and possibly even Atlantean secrets that were thought to have been lost when Atlantis disappeared beneath the ocean. For centuries, the Freemasons, for example, have been linked to the safeguarding of sacred knowledge, and some believe that the knowledge they protect has its roots in Atlantis. According to some theories, the Freemasons are descendants of the builders of the great temples and cities of Atlantis, and their rituals and symbols are designed to preserve the wisdom passed down by their ancestors. This wisdom could include knowledge of advanced technology, energy systems, and philosophical teachings, ideas that may have been far ahead of their time and could still influence our world today. If this is true, the royal bloodline of Atlantis may not have disappeared at all. Instead, it could have survived through these secret societies, their influence subtly shaping the course of history. Similarly, the Knights Templar, a medieval Christian military order, have long been associated with secret knowledge and mysticism. During their time, the Templars were rumored to have uncovered ancient relics and texts, some of which were said to be linked to lost civilizations such as Atlantis. The Templars were also believed to have been protectors of sacred knowledge, much of which was hidden away to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. Some suggest that the Templars' role in guarding such knowledge may have been linked to the belief that they were protecting the legacy of Atlantis, a legacy that included not just material wealth, but also spiritual and esoteric wisdom. In addition to these more well-known secret societies, other mysterious groups and organizations throughout history are believed to have played a role in preserving the knowledge of Atlantis. The Rosicrucians, for example, are a mystical organization that traces its origins to the early 17th century and is said to have inherited a body of esoteric knowledge linked to ancient civilizations. Some believe that the Rosicrucians, like the Freemasons and the Templars, were keepers of the hidden wisdom of Atlantis, passed down through generations in a carefully guarded tradition. This idea is further supported by the fact that many of the symbols and rituals associated with these groups, such as the use of the compass and square by the Freemasons or the mystical alchemical symbols of the Rosicrucians, seem to have their origins in ancient knowledge that could have been passed down from the Atlanteans themselves. These secret societies and their alleged connection to the royal bloodline of Atlantis are not just speculative ideas. They're a part of a larger narrative that has been woven throughout history. The idea of hidden knowledge, secret guardians, and royal lineages that stretch back to antiquity is deeply embedded in the myths, symbols, and stories of cultures around the world. From the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks to the more modern myths surrounding the Freemasons and the Illuminati, there is a consistent theme of a secret, esoteric tradition that is passed down through the ages, often in coded form, waiting for the right time to be revealed. But why would this knowledge be hidden? Why would the descendants of Atlantis, if they still exist, choose to remain concealed, their lineage a secret? One possible answer lies in the destructive power of the knowledge they possess. According to some theories, the advanced technologies and spiritual wisdom that the Atlanteans had access to could be incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands. The destruction of Atlantis itself, as Plato's story suggests, was a result of the Atlanteans' abuse of their power, their greed and hubris leading them to destroy their own civilization. Perhaps the survivors of Atlantis, recognizing the potential for catastrophe if their knowledge were to fall into the wrong hands, decided to hide it away, keeping it safe and only revealing it to those they trusted. Another possibility is that the royal bloodline of Atlantis may have continued to shape the world from behind the scenes, using their knowledge to subtly guide the course of history. Perhaps the descendants of Atlantis were not interested in ruling in an overt, political sense, but rather in preserving their wisdom and guiding humanity in a more covert manner. This would explain the rise of secret societies, which often operate in the background of history, influencing events and individuals without attracting widespread attention. The idea that the royal bloodline of Atlantis is still alive today, hidden within these ancient organizations, is both tantalizing and unsettling. It suggests that the legacy of Atlantis is not just a distant memory, but a living force, still at work in the world, shaping events and individuals from the shadows. The descendants of Poseidon, guardians of ancient wisdom and technology, might be the true stewards of human history, their power and influence hidden in plain sight. As we continue to explore the mysteries of Atlantis, it is important to remember that the search for truth is often a journey through uncertainty. The legacy of Atlantis, its royal lineage, and the wisdom it may have held are deeply intertwined with the story of human civilization itself. Whether we are looking for answers in ancient texts, secret symbols, or hidden societies, the quest to uncover the secrets of Atlantis is a pursuit that will continue to challenge our understanding of the past, the present, and perhaps even the future. The royal bloodline of Atlantis may not be a myth after all. Instead, it could be a key to unlocking the deepest mysteries of human history, waiting to be rediscovered. The idea that Atlantis was not just a city or island, but an entire civilization, rich in knowledge and culture, has intrigued scholars, historians, and esoteric thinkers for centuries. The mystical qualities of Atlantis, the advanced technologies, the divine lineage of its rulers, and the vast resources of the island are often depicted as the reasons behind its prosperity and eventual downfall. However, just as important as these elements of Atlantis' rise and fall are the deep connections it allegedly had with ancient prophecies, secret knowledge, and even cosmic cycles. These elements seem to suggest that Atlantis' story is not just a history lesson from the past, but a pattern that has recurred throughout time and may still be unfolding today. One of the most striking features of Atlantis' legacy, as told by Plato, is its connection to divine knowledge. According to the story, the Atlanteans were not only technologically advanced, but were also spiritually enlightened, wielding knowledge that came directly from the gods. This sacred wisdom, which the Atlanteans inherited from Poseidon, allowed them to build an empire that seemed to rival the gods themselves. The tale of Atlantis is, therefore, not just a narrative about material power, but about a deeper, esoteric wisdom that guided the rulers and citizens alike. As such, It is crucial to understand how this spiritual knowledge was thought to function in the context of the civilization's rise and fall. Prophecies play a central role in the Atlantis story. The most well-known prophecy comes from the gods themselves, who foresaw the destruction of the island as a result of the Atlanteans' moral decay and hubris. In many ways, the fall of Atlantis is framed as a cosmic or divine judgment, a punishment for a civilization that lost its connection to the divine order. This concept of cosmic retribution, of a great civilization being undone due to its arrogance or disregard for spiritual balance, is not unique to Atlantis. It echoes throughout many ancient cultures, including those of the Egyptians, Sumerians, and even the later myths of the biblical flood. These recurring themes suggest that the fall of Atlantis was not just a one-time event, but part of a larger cycle of rise and fall that has occurred across different epochs. However, the connection between Atlantis and prophecy goes deeper than just divine judgment. Some have suggested that the wisdom and knowledge of Atlantis were encoded in prophetic symbols, rituals, and even texts that survived the island's destruction. These remnants of Atlantean wisdom, passed down through the survivors and secret societies, may have been designed to warn future generations of the dangers of spiritual decay and the cyclical nature of civilization. Could it be that the ancient prophecies of Atlantis were not merely warnings for the Atlanteans, but for all of humanity? These prophecies might have been intended to prevent the same mistakes from being repeated, ensuring that the knowledge of Atlantis could guide humanity through future periods of darkness and ignorance. The idea that the story of Atlantis could hold the key to understanding cosmic cycles and the rise and fall of civilizations ties into the concept of a golden age. In many cultures, including the Greeks, the Hindus, and even the Native Americans, there is a belief in an ideal time in the distant past when civilization was in harmony with the cosmos and the divine. This period is often referred to as the Golden Age and is described as a time of peace, prosperity, and enlightenment. In these cultures, the Golden Age is often associated with a lost civilization, a society that possessed divine wisdom, advanced technologies, and spiritual harmony. Atlantis, with its advanced civilization and divine rulers, seems to fit this archetype perfectly. Yet, just as the Golden Age represents a time of spiritual enlightenment, its opposite, the Dark Age or Kali Yuga, is also a recurring theme in many ancient traditions. The Dark Age represents a time of spiritual decline, materialism, and corruption. According to some interpretations of Plato's Atlantis story, the downfall of the island was a result of this very process, a fall from grace, from divine favor to spiritual decay. The very attributes that made Atlantis great, its wealth, its advanced technology, and its divine rulers, became the cause of its destruction. As the Atlanteans lost their connection to the divine, they became increasingly materialistic and arrogant, leading to their eventual collapse. This theme of spiritual decline and moral decay is found not only in the myth of Atlantis, but also in many ancient prophecies that warn of the cyclical nature of civilizations. In some ways, the destruction of Atlantis can be seen as a precursor to the larger, ongoing cycle of civilizations that rise and fall throughout history. According to these prophecies, each cycle begins with a golden age, in which humanity lives in harmony with the divine, followed by a gradual descent into materialism and corruption, and finally culminating in a catastrophic collapse that wipes out the old civilization and sets the stage for a new cycle to begin. The rise and fall of Atlantis, therefore, may not have been a singular event, but part of a much larger, ongoing pattern of human history that repeats itself across time. This cyclical view of history is further supported by the idea that the knowledge of Atlantis, their spiritual wisdom, their advanced technologies, and their warnings about moral decay, was preserved and passed down through secret societies. The Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Knights Templar, and other such groups are believed to have inherited the esoteric knowledge of Atlantis, along with the prophecies about the rise and fall of civilizations. These societies, often shrouded in secrecy, are thought to be the guardians of this ancient wisdom, preserving the knowledge of Atlantis and its lessons for future generations. Through symbols, rituals, and hidden texts, these secret societies are believed to have kept the knowledge of Atlantis alive, ensuring that humanity would not forget the warnings embedded in the civilization's rise and fall. In this context, the ancient prophecies associated with Atlantis take on a more urgent meaning. The idea that humanity is living in a time of moral and spiritual decay, much like the Atlanteans did before their downfall, is a recurring theme in modern esoteric thought. Many believe that we are approaching a new cycle, a time when the knowledge and wisdom of Atlantis will be rediscovered and its warnings heeded. According to some of these beliefs, the current world order, marked by materialism, environmental destruction, and spiritual disconnection, mirrors the very conditions that led to the collapse of Atlantis. The prophecies of Atlantis, then, may serve as a warning for humanity. Unless we reconnect with the divine, restore balance to our world, and elevate our spiritual consciousness, we too may face a similar fate. However, the question remains, if the knowledge of Atlantis and its prophecies were preserved through secret societies and hidden teachings, when will this wisdom be revealed to the world? Are we on the verge of discovering the lost truths of Atlantis? And if so, how will it change the course of human history? Many believe that the rediscovery of Atlantean wisdom could mark the beginning of a new golden age, an era in which humanity regains its connection to the divine and lives in harmony with the earth and the cosmos. However, this rediscovery may also come with significant challenges. Just as the Atlanteans misused their knowledge and power, modern humanity may face similar temptations to abuse the secrets it uncovers. The existence of prophecies, hidden knowledge, and advanced technologies from Atlantis raises profound questions about the nature of civilization itself. Is history truly cyclical, as many ancient cultures suggest, or is the story of Atlantis a cautionary tale about the fragility of human progress? Could we be on the cusp of a new era, one where the wisdom of the past is rediscovered and used to guide humanity to a higher plane of existence? Or are we, like the Atlanteans, doomed to repeat the same mistakes that have led to the fall of so many civilizations before us? The story of Atlantis, with its mystical knowledge, divine rulers, and catastrophic downfall, serves as both a warning and a beacon of hope. It tells of a civilization that reached unprecedented heights, only to be undone by its own moral failings. But it also hints at the possibility that the knowledge of Atlantis was never truly lost, merely hidden, waiting for the right time to be revealed once again. Whether or not we are on the brink of rediscovering this lost wisdom, the story of Atlantis offers profound lessons for the future, a reminder that true power lies not in material wealth or technological advancement, but in spiritual connection, balance, and respect for the natural world. As we continue to explore the enigmatic legacy of Atlantis, it becomes increasingly clear that its story, once thought to be a mere myth, may carry a deeper, more profound significance than originally imagined. The idea that Atlantis was not just a lost island, but a civilization of extraordinary power, knowledge, and divine connection suggests that there is more at play in its narrative than mere historical records. For centuries, Atlantis has been depicted as a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and the inevitable downfall of civilizations that lose their moral compass. But what if the story of Atlantis is more than just a tragedy? What if it is a key to understanding the true history of humanity, the forces that have shaped our development, and the hidden knowledge that may yet resurface in our time? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Atlantis story is the idea that the knowledge possessed by the Atlanteans was far beyond what we consider possible for ancient civilizations. Plato's description of Atlantis is full of remarkable details, many of which suggest that the Atlanteans had mastered not only advanced technology, but also spiritual wisdom. The people of Atlantis were said to possess a deep understanding of the cosmos, the natural world, and the divine. They were able to harness energy in ways that we can only begin to imagine. Their cities were not only technologically advanced, but were also designed with spiritual and esoteric principles in mind, incorporating sacred geometry and astronomical alignments into their architecture. This raises the question, where did this knowledge come from, and how did the Atlanteans acquire it? Some have speculated that the Atlanteans were in possession of a kind of lost science, a knowledge of the natural world and the cosmos that was so advanced that it seemed almost magical to ancient observers. This knowledge may have been passed down from earlier civilizations, such as those in ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, and India, or it may have been the result of direct contact with extraterrestrial beings. While this idea may sound far-fetched to some, it is worth considering that many ancient cultures around the world, from the Egyptians to the Mayans, have left behind clues suggesting that they had knowledge of the stars, the movements of the planets, and other cosmic phenomena long before the advent of modern science. The Egyptians, for example, constructed their pyramids in alignment with the stars, suggesting a deep understanding of astronomy. Similarly, the ancient Mayans developed a highly sophisticated calendar system based on the cycles of the stars and planets, which was far more accurate than anything used in Europe at the time. Could it be that the Atlanteans, like these other ancient cultures, were in possession of a hidden science, a knowledge that had been passed down from an earlier, more advanced civilization, or perhaps from the stars themselves? Some believe that the key to understanding the Atlanteans' advanced technology lies in their ability to harness energy, particularly the energy of the Earth and the cosmos. According to some theories, the Atlanteans had developed a form of free energy, a way of extracting energy from natural sources like the Earth's magnetic field, water, or even cosmic radiation. This technology, if it existed, would have been far ahead of anything we have today and could have been the key to the Atlanteans' prosperity. But if they possessed such power, why did their civilization fall? And what happened to the knowledge of this technology after the destruction of Atlantis? The fall of Atlantis, as described by Plato, is a pivotal moment in the story. The island was said to have been swallowed by the sea in a single day and night, disappearing without a trace. The cause of this catastrophe was the moral and spiritual decline of the Atlanteans. As their rulers became more corrupt and materialistic, they lost their connection to the divine wisdom that had once guided their civilization. In their arrogance, they sought to expand their empire through conquest, disregarding the natural balance of the world. This hubris angered the gods, who punished the Atlanteans by destroying their island, causing it to sink beneath the waves. The destruction of Atlantis was not just a physical event. It was also a spiritual reckoning, a cosmic judgment for a civilization that had lost its way. This idea of moral and spiritual decline leading to the downfall of great civilizations is a theme that appears again and again throughout history. It is a recurring motif in ancient myths, from the story of the Tower of Babel in the Bible to the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, to the decline of ancient Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations. Each of these stories speaks to the idea that societies that lose touch with their spiritual foundations are doomed to collapse. Atlantis, in this sense, serves as a powerful symbol for humanity's ongoing struggle with the balance between material progress and spiritual wisdom. The Atlanteans, for all their technological marvels and wealth, were unable to maintain this balance, and their civilization was destroyed as a result. Could we, too, be at a similar crossroads in our own civilization, with the temptation of unchecked technological advancement and material wealth threatening to lead us down the same path? The destruction of Atlantis is not just a lesson in humility. It is a reminder that spiritual wisdom, moral integrity, and respect for the natural world are essential for the survival of any civilization. If Atlantis represents the peak of human achievement, then its fall serves as a warning for future generations. The knowledge that the Atlanteans possessed, if it was indeed as advanced as Plato suggested, could hold the key to understanding not only the mysteries of the ancient world, but also the future of humanity. It is possible that the wisdom of Atlantis is hidden in plain sight, embedded in the myths, symbols, and teachings of secret societies, ancient texts, and even in the architecture of ancient civilizations. The search for Atlantis, then, is not just about uncovering lost artifacts or ruins. It is about rediscovering the lost wisdom that once guided humanity's greatest civilization. The connection between Atlantis and the secret societies that have emerged throughout history is a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of the Atlantis story. The Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Knights Templar, and other esoteric organizations have long been rumored to possess ancient knowledge passed down from the survivors of Atlantis. These societies, with their hidden rituals, symbols, and teachings, are believed by some to be the custodians of the sacred wisdom of Atlantis, safeguarding its secrets for future generations. Many of the symbols associated with these groups, such as the compass and square of the Freemasons or the alchemical symbols of the Rosicrucians, are thought to be encoded references to the knowledge of Atlantis. The teachings of these societies, which often focus on spiritual enlightenment, personal transformation, and the pursuit of hidden truths, may be part of a larger effort to restore the lost wisdom of Atlantis and ensure that humanity does not repeat the mistakes of the past. It is not just in the esoteric traditions of the West that we find traces of Atlantean wisdom. Many other cultures around the world have their own versions of the Atlantis story, suggesting that the knowledge of this lost civilization was widely shared. The ancient Egyptians, for example, are often said to have inherited the knowledge of Atlantis, passing it down through their priests and scholars. The Egyptians, with their profound understanding of the cosmos, mathematics, and architecture, were the keepers of many ancient secrets, some of which may have originated in Atlantis. The pyramids of Egypt, with their precise alignments to the stars, may be one such example of this ancient knowledge, preserved and passed down from the survivors of Atlantis. Similarly, the ancient Sumerians, whose civilization predates even the Egyptians, also left behind a legacy of knowledge that may be connected to Atlantis. The Sumerians had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and law, disciplines that are thought to have been influenced by the wisdom of earlier civilizations, possibly including Atlantis. The presence of Atlantean knowledge in these ancient cultures points to the possibility that the survivors of Atlantis were not completely wiped out by the catastrophe that destroyed their island. Instead, they may have fled to other parts of the world, bringing their knowledge with them and sharing it with other ancient civilizations. Over time, this knowledge may have been modified and adapted to fit the cultural and spiritual context of the societies that inherited it, but the core teachings and principles may have remained the same. The connection between Atlantis and these ancient civilizations is not just a matter of geographical proximity, but one of spiritual and intellectual inheritance. The wisdom of Atlantis, passed down through the survivors and secret societies, may be the key to understanding the lost secrets of human history. Today, the search for Atlantis continues to captivate the imagination of many. Whether through archaeological digs, ancient texts, or modern interpretations of old myths, the quest for Atlantis represents humanity's desire to rediscover a lost golden age, a time when civilization was in harmony with the divine and the natural world. The story of Atlantis may hold the key to understanding not only our past, but also our future. By examining the lessons of Atlantis, we can gain insight into the challenges facing our modern world and the steps we must take to avoid the same fate that befell this once great civilization. As we continue to explore the mysteries of Atlantis, we may find that the lost wisdom of this ancient civilization is not as lost as we once believed. It may still be hidden, waiting to be rediscovered by those who are willing to look beneath the surface. As the search for Atlantis continues to captivate the imagination of modern scholars, adventurers, and theorists alike, the story of this fabled civilization persists as one of the most enduring mysteries of human history. While much of the evidence of its existence remains submerged in the depths of the ocean or hidden within the annals of ancient texts, the idea that Atlantis was a real place, an advanced civilization with knowledge far beyond what was thought possible for its time, has refused to fade from the collective consciousness. This narrative is not just about an ancient civilization lost to time, but about a deeper, esoteric story woven into the very fabric of human history. a story that suggests that Atlantis holds the key to understanding the cyclical nature of human civilization, the rise and fall of empires, and the profound spiritual lessons that come with them. The continuing allure of Atlantis is not solely based on the mystery of its disappearance, but on the tantalizing possibility that its knowledge and legacy might still be accessible to humanity today. The lost city of Atlantis, as Plato described it, was a place of extraordinary prosperity, advanced technology, and spiritual enlightenment, and it was governed by rulers who were believed to be descendants of Poseidon, the god of the sea. The Atlanteans, it is said, possessed knowledge that was far ahead of its time, knowledge that allowed them to build monumental structures, harness the forces of nature, and maintain an empire that stretched across the oceans. But in their hubris, they became disconnected from the divine wisdom that had once guided them, and as a result, they fell into decadence and corruption. In a single day and night, their entire civilization was swallowed by the sea, a catastrophic event that marked the end of their reign. But was this the end of Atlantis, or was it merely the beginning of a much larger, hidden story? The concept of lost civilizations and their wisdom being preserved in secret has long fascinated humanity. Throughout history, there have been numerous accounts of ancient knowledge being hidden from the public eye, preserved by secret societies, underground organizations, and hidden groups that claim to possess the true history of humanity. Some believe that the legacy of Atlantis did not die with its destruction, but that its wisdom and teachings were passed down through the ages, protected by these secret societies, waiting for the right moment to be revealed again. In this context, the idea of a hidden Atlantean bloodline takes on a much greater significance. If the royal family of Atlantis was, as Plato claimed, descended from the gods, could their lineage have survived the cataclysmic destruction of the island? It is possible that the descendants of Atlantis did not perish but fled to distant lands, carrying with them the sacred knowledge and teachings of their forebears. These survivors might have gone into hiding, forming secret societies and underground organizations that would protect their knowledge from the world, ensuring that it would not be lost to time. Over the centuries, these secret societies, whether the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Knights Templar, or other esoteric groups, have been rumored to possess knowledge of Atlantis and its royal lineage, holding the key to unlocking the secrets of the lost civilization. The idea that secret societies have preserved Atlantean wisdom is not a new one. Many ancient traditions speak of a time when knowledge was hidden away, accessible only to those who were initiated into its mysteries. The ancient Egyptians, for instance, are often cited as inheritors of Atlantean wisdom, with their priests serving as the guardians of sacred knowledge passed down from the survivors of Atlantis. The Egyptian pyramids, with their precise astronomical alignments and their mysterious internal chambers, are seen by some as the product of this ancient wisdom. Architecture that was designed not only for religious or funerary purposes, but also to encode and preserve knowledge about the cosmos, energy, and the forces of nature. Similarly, other ancient cultures, including the Sumerians and the Mayans, left behind artifacts, texts, and structures that hint at a deep understanding of the world and the universe that seems to transcend the capabilities of their time. These civilizations, it is believed, may have been influenced by the survivors of Atlantis, who brought with them the knowledge of the lost civilization and shared it with the world. Over time, this knowledge became woven into the fabric of various ancient cultures, influencing their mythology, religious practices, and even their scientific achievements. But if the survivors of Atlantis did indeed pass their knowledge on to the ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, and others, what happened to it after that? Where is this wisdom today, and how can we access it? Some suggest that the knowledge of Atlantis was never lost, but has been deliberately concealed throughout history, hidden in plain sight within the symbols, rituals, and teachings of secret societies. The idea that certain groups have guarded this knowledge for centuries is central to many conspiracy theories about hidden history. The Freemasons, for example, are often linked to the preservation of ancient wisdom, with their elaborate rituals, symbols, and beliefs said to encode the lost knowledge of Atlantis. Similarly, The Knights Templar, a medieval military order, are thought to have uncovered ancient texts or relics that contain the secrets of the lost civilization. These texts, it is believed, might contain the wisdom necessary to understand the true nature of the world, the cosmos, and humanity's place in it. The connection between these secret societies and Atlantis is not merely speculative. It is rooted in a long tradition of hidden knowledge. The symbols and rituals used by these groups often seem to reference ancient civilizations, including Atlantis, and they frequently make use of geometric patterns, astrological symbols, and other mystical imagery that could have originated in Atlantis. The use of the all-seeing eye, for example, is one of the most recognizable symbols of the Freemasons, and it has been interpreted by some as a reference to the divine wisdom of Atlantis, an eye that sees beyond the physical realm and into the mysteries of the universe. Similarly, the compass and square, tools that are central to Masonic ritual, are thought to be symbols of the lost knowledge of Atlantis, representing the balance between material and spiritual realms, the harmony of the cosmos, and the idea that human beings must align themselves with divine principles in order to thrive. This idea that ancient wisdom has been preserved and hidden by secret societies is closely tied to the concept of cyclical time, a belief that civilizations rise and fall in a repeating cycle, with each new cycle being an opportunity for humanity to rediscover the knowledge of the past and avoid the mistakes that led to the previous civilization's collapse. This cyclical view of history is prevalent in many ancient traditions, from the Hindu concept of the yugas to the Western esoteric traditions that speak of the return of the Golden Age. If Atlantis was, indeed, a civilization that reached the heights of spiritual and technological enlightenment before its fall, then its story is a crucial part of this larger cycle. The knowledge of Atlantis, passed down through the secret societies, might hold the key to understanding the next stage in human evolution, the moment when humanity can once again rediscover its connection to the divine and awaken to a new golden age. But why, one might ask, would these secret societies continue to guard this knowledge? Why keep it hidden from the public eye for so long? The answer, perhaps, lies in the lessons of Atlantis itself. The destruction of Atlantis was, according to the myth, a result of the Atlanteans' misuse of their knowledge, specifically their greed, arrogance, and disregard for the natural order. As their civilization grew more powerful, they became more materialistic and disconnected from the divine wisdom that had once guided them. Their downfall, therefore, was not merely a physical event but a spiritual one. If the knowledge of Atlantis was to survive, it needed to be protected, passed down only to those who were worthy of understanding it, those who could use it wisely and in harmony with the divine order. The knowledge of Atlantis was, in a sense, too powerful for humanity to handle unless it was used with great care and respect. This, then, may be the reason why the knowledge of Atlantis has remained hidden for so long. It is not because it was lost, but because it was preserved for a time when humanity could once again be ready to receive it. The secret societies, which have long been the keepers of this wisdom, are believed to be the guardians of this ancient knowledge, waiting for the moment when the world is ready to awaken to its full potential. In this sense, the search for Atlantis is not just a quest for lost treasure or ancient ruins. It is a search for the hidden wisdom that could shape the future of humanity. In the modern world, where technological advancement has outpaced spiritual growth, the story of Atlantis serves as both a warning and an inspiration. It is a reminder that material progress, without a corresponding growth in spiritual understanding, can lead to disaster. The fall of Atlantis is not just a tale of a lost civilization. It is a reflection of the ongoing struggle that humanity faces today, balancing the pursuit of technological power with the need for spiritual and moral integrity. The search for Atlantis is, in many ways, a search for a lost wisdom that can help guide us through the challenges of our own time and lead us to a new era of enlightenment and harmony. Could we, like the Atlanteans, be on the brink of discovering the secrets of the past, only to be faced with the responsibility of using that knowledge wisely? The answer, perhaps, lies not in the discovery of a city beneath the waves, but in the awakening of humanity's deeper potential. As the mysteries surrounding Atlantis continue to fascinate and intrigue, one of the most enduring questions is not just about its physical existence, but about the deeper, more metaphysical implications of the story. What does Atlantis represent, not just as a lost civilization, but as a symbol of humanity's potential, its spiritual evolution, and its capacity for both greatness and destruction? The story of Atlantis, as passed down through ancient myths and philosophical works like Plato's Dialogues, serves as a powerful metaphor for the cycles of human civilization, the delicate balance between wisdom and hubris, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. For those who seek deeper meaning in the Atlantis narrative, it becomes clear that the story is about much more than the physical remnants of an ancient city that sank beneath the ocean. It's about the spiritual journey of humanity, our rise, our fall, and our ongoing quest for knowledge, enlightenment, and understanding. Atlantis, in this light, is not just a lost city. It is a representation of human potential at its peak and a stark reminder of the consequences of losing our way. The downfall of Atlantis is not merely the destruction of a civilization, but a profound, cosmic warning about the dangers of disconnection from spiritual truths and the destructive power of unchecked ambition. Plato's description of Atlantis offers a blueprint for understanding the rise and fall of human societies. The island's inhabitants, initially blessed with divine knowledge and guided by the wisdom of their godly rulers, were able to create a civilization of unparalleled prosperity and power. They mastered advanced technologies, perfected art and architecture, and established a harmonious society based on principles of justice and wisdom. However, as time passed, the Atlanteans grew increasingly arrogant and complacent. They began to take their divine favor for granted, forgetting the spiritual wisdom that had once guided them. Their rulers, once revered for their divine ancestry and wisdom, became greedy and corrupt, seeking to expand their empire at any cost. The result was not just a physical disaster, Atlantis' destruction, but a profound spiritual collapse. What happened to the Atlanteans, then, is a pattern that has echoed throughout history. From the fall of ancient Rome to the decline of modern empires, the story of Atlantis is mirrored in the rise and fall of civilizations across time. Each civilization begins with high ideals, a connection to the divine or spiritual knowledge, and a sense of purpose and harmony. But as civilizations grow in power and wealth, they often lose sight of their foundational principles. They become seduced by materialism, power, and control, which leads to their moral and spiritual decay. In the case of Atlantis, this moral decay was so extreme that the gods themselves intervened, causing the island to sink into the ocean as a warning to the world. The destruction of Atlantis, then, is a powerful metaphor for the dangers of humanity's disconnection from higher knowledge. The Atlanteans did not simply lose their island. They lost the very wisdom that had given them their power. This wisdom, which was deeply intertwined with spiritual principles, was the true source of their greatness. Without it, their advanced technologies and material wealth became nothing more than tools of destruction. This is the tragic irony of Atlantis, a civilization that had access to the highest forms of knowledge and understanding, but squandered it due to pride, greed, and a lack of spiritual humility. In many ways, the fall of Atlantis can be seen as a warning for our own time. The parallels between the story of Atlantis and the current state of the world are striking. We live in an age of unprecedented technological advancement, with the power to reshape the world around us in ways that were once unimaginable. Yet, like the Atlanteans, many in our society have become disconnected from the deeper truths that should guide our actions. We have developed powerful technologies, but often at the cost of our spiritual and ethical principles. We are capable of great feats of engineering and innovation, but we also face the dangers of environmental destruction, societal inequality, and moral decay. The rise of artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and other advanced technologies raises profound questions about our ability to wield such power responsibly. Will we, like the Atlanteans, use our knowledge for the betterment of all, or will we fall victim to the same hubris that led to their downfall? This brings us to the concept of cyclical time, which plays a significant role in many esoteric traditions and is often associated with Atlantis. The idea of cyclical time suggests that civilizations and societies rise and fall in a repeating pattern, each cycle offering humanity the opportunity to learn from past mistakes. In the case of Atlantis, the destruction of the island can be seen as the end of one cycle and the beginning of another, a new opportunity for humanity to learn, grow, and evolve. But for this new cycle to be successful, humanity must reconnect with the spiritual wisdom that guided Atlantis in its prime. The search for Atlantis, then, is not merely about uncovering the remains of an ancient city. It is a search for the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface of history, waiting to be rediscovered. In this sense, Atlantis represents not just a lost civilization, but the potential for human transformation. The knowledge that the Atlanteans possessed, their advanced technologies, their spiritual wisdom, and their understanding of the cosmos, has been passed down through the ages, preserved in the myths, symbols, and teachings of secret societies, ancient texts, and sacred traditions. The Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and the Knights Templar are just a few of the groups that are believed to have inherited this knowledge, keeping it hidden from the public eye until the time is right for it to be revealed again. These secret societies, however, are not the only bearers of Atlantean wisdom. Many of the world's great spiritual traditions, from Eastern philosophies to Western mysticism, contain echoes of the ancient wisdom that the Atlanteans are said to have possessed. In the teachings of Buddhism, Hinduism, and Taoism, for example, there are references to the idea of the cosmic order, the balance between material and spiritual realities, and the importance of aligning oneself with divine principles. Similarly, the traditions of Hermeticism and Gnosticism in the West emphasize the pursuit of hidden knowledge and the search for spiritual enlightenment, principles that resonate deeply with the story of Atlantis. This hidden wisdom, passed down through the ages, may hold the key to understanding the true purpose of human existence and the nature of our spiritual evolution. Atlantis, as both a physical place and a symbol of lost knowledge, serves as a reminder that the potential for greatness lies within us all. But in order to unlock this potential, we must reconnect with the deeper truths of the universe and learn to live in harmony with the natural world. The rise and fall of Atlantis is not just a story about a lost civilization. It is a story about the spiritual journey of humanity itself, our ability to reach for the stars, only to falter when we forget the lessons of the past. This is why the search for Atlantis is so compelling. It is not just about finding a lost city or uncovering ancient technologies. It is about finding a path forward for humanity. The legacy of Atlantis may be more than just an ancient memory. It may be the key to humanity's future. The knowledge that was lost with the fall of Atlantis may be waiting to be rediscovered, offering us the chance to transcend the limitations of our current understanding and build a civilization based on wisdom, compassion, and spiritual insight. As we continue to explore the mysteries of Atlantis, it is important to remember that its story is not just a relic of the past, but a living symbol of what we can become. Atlantis offers a vision of humanity at its highest potential, a civilization that lived in harmony with the cosmos, in tune with the divine wisdom that governs the universe. The fall of Atlantis, then, is not an end, but a beginning, a call to humanity to remember its true nature and reconnect with the deeper truths that can guide us toward a brighter future. In this sense, the Atlantis story is not just about a civilization that vanished long ago. It is about the ongoing journey of humanity as we strive to reach our highest potential. The fall of Atlantis serves as both a warning and a lesson, a reminder that spiritual wisdom, humility, and respect for the natural order are essential for the survival and prosperity of any civilization. If we can learn from the mistakes of the Atlanteans, we may avoid their fate and create a new golden age, one that embraces the wisdom of the past while building a future of peace, prosperity, and spiritual enlightenment. The secrets of Atlantis may be lost to history, but their lessons remain, waiting to be rediscovered and applied to the world we live in today. As we delve further into the mystique surrounding Atlantis, one of the most compelling aspects of its story is the notion that it was not just a physically advanced civilization, but one deeply connected to the spiritual dimensions of existence. The Atlanteans, according to many interpretations of the myth, were not simply masters of technology and science, but also guardians of ancient, esoteric knowledge, wisdom that spanned not just the physical realm, but extended to the metaphysical, cosmic, and even divine realms. This wisdom, it is said, granted them not only the power to control their environment, but also the ability to understand the deeper workings of the universe. But what was this knowledge? Where did it come from? And more importantly, how can we apply these lessons to our own civilization today? The story of Atlantis, when examined through the lens of esoteric traditions, paints a picture of a society that was far more than just a physical civilization. In many ways, Atlantis represents the pinnacle of humanity's potential, an age in which spiritual knowledge and material power coexisted harmoniously. Plato's account, which provides the most detailed record of Atlantis, speaks of a society that was not only technologically advanced, but also one that was governed by divine laws, guided by wisdom passed down from the gods themselves. This combination of material mastery and spiritual insight created a civilization that, in theory, had the capacity to reach its fullest potential. However, as Plato famously describes, the downfall of Atlantis occurred when its rulers and citizens lost sight of the divine wisdom that had once guided them. They became arrogant, corrupted by their own power, and began to prioritize material wealth and conquest over the spiritual principles that had sustained their civilization. The great sin of Atlantis was, therefore, not a lack of technological innovation or physical prowess, but the loss of their spiritual connection, a fatal disconnection from the higher principles that had made their civilization so advanced and prosperous. This disconnection between the material and the spiritual is, in many ways, a universal theme. It is not just the story of Atlantis, but a pattern that repeats throughout history. We can see echoes of this narrative in the rise and fall of other great civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Romans, and even in more recent times, in the rapid technological advancements of modern society. Each civilization, in its peak, was often marked by a deep spiritual connection to the cosmos, whether through their religious practices, philosophical traditions, or a sense of living in alignment with natural laws. However, as these societies grew more powerful and wealthy, they became increasingly materialistic, and their spiritual foundations began to erode. In the end, just as Atlantis fell to the sea, these civilizations too collapsed under the weight of their own hubris and spiritual disconnection. The fall of Atlantis, then, serves as a poignant reminder of the dangers of neglecting the spiritual aspects of life. This is not simply about religion or dogma. It is about a deeper, more intrinsic understanding of our place in the cosmos, the interconnectedness of all things, and the importance of living in harmony with the natural order. The Atlanteans in their prime understood this. They were said to have built their cities using sacred geometry, their architecture and planning reflecting a profound understanding of the energetic and cosmic forces that govern the universe. Their technologies were believed to be derived from this understanding, harnessing the power of nature itself. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Atlantis myth is the concept of the Atlantean wisdom, a body of knowledge that is often described in mystical and esoteric terms. This knowledge, which some believe was passed down through secret societies and ancient traditions, was said to encompass a wide range of disciplines: astronomy, energy manipulation, sacred geometry, alchemy, and even metaphysics. The Atlanteans were believed to have mastered the science of energy flow, not just in the physical world, but also on a spiritual level. They understood how to tap into the natural forces of the earth and the universe, manipulating these energies to achieve their goals. This ability to harness energy, it is said, was what allowed the Atlanteans to build their incredible cities, perform feats of engineering, and maintain their advanced civilization. In many ways, this mastery of energy is akin to what modern society is beginning to understand through the fields of quantum physics and alternative energy. The Atlanteans, according to these traditions, had tapped into a level of knowledge that modern science is only now beginning to scratch the surface of. Could it be that the true legacy of Atlantis lies not in its physical technology or its lost cities, but in its deep, esoteric understanding of energy and consciousness? The answer, perhaps, lies in the hidden teachings that have been passed down through the ages, encrypted in ancient texts, symbols, and sacred rituals that continue to be preserved by secret societies and spiritual traditions around the world. These secret societies, often portrayed as the guardians of ancient knowledge, are believed to hold the keys to understanding the lost wisdom of Atlantis. The Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Knights Templar, and other similar groups are often linked to the preservation of Atlantean teachings. These societies, with their hidden rituals, symbols, and allegories, are thought to be the custodians of the knowledge that the Atlanteans once possessed, knowledge that has been carefully preserved and passed down through the centuries. Whether through allegorical tales, initiations, or esoteric teachings, these societies are said to have maintained the spiritual and metaphysical wisdom that was once the cornerstone of the Atlantean civilization. It is also believed that the knowledge of Atlantis did not end with the collapse of its island. Rather, the survivors of the catastrophe, whether in the form of a few chosen individuals or entire groups, are thought to have escaped to other parts of the world, bringing their teachings with them. These survivors may have traveled to Egypt, South America, or other ancient civilizations, where they shared their wisdom with the people they encountered. The influence of Atlantean knowledge can be seen in the sacred texts, pyramids, and monuments of ancient cultures, which often share similarities in their construction and symbolism. In the case of Egypt, for example, the pyramids are often seen as one of the most tangible remnants of this lost knowledge. The precision with which the pyramids were built, their alignment with the stars, and the mathematical calculations involved suggest a profound understanding of geometry and the natural forces at play in the universe. Some researchers argue that the Egyptians did not develop these concepts on their own, but inherited them from a much older, more advanced civilization, Atlantis. This theory is supported by the idea that the ancient Egyptian priests, like the Atlanteans, were initiates of a secret, sacred tradition that linked them to the divine knowledge of the past. Similarly, in the traditions of the Maya and Inca, we find evidence of sophisticated astronomical knowledge and a deep connection to the natural world. The Mayan calendar, with its intricate calculations and alignment with celestial cycles, has long been a source of intrigue for researchers and mystics alike. Some believe that the Maya were the descendants of the Atlanteans, inheritors of the wisdom passed down from the survivors of the lost civilization. The parallels between the advanced technologies of the Maya and the mysterious knowledge of the Atlanteans suggest a possible link between these ancient cultures, with the teachings of Atlantis serving as the foundation for their scientific and spiritual achievements. In modern times, the search for Atlantis has become more than just an archaeological quest. It has become a metaphor for the search for higher knowledge, spiritual awakening, and personal transformation. Many contemporary spiritual movements, from New Age philosophies to esoteric traditions, look to the story of Atlantis as a blueprint for human evolution. These movements often focus on the idea that humanity is on the brink of a great spiritual awakening, one that will allow us to rediscover the wisdom of the past and align ourselves once again with the divine forces that govern the universe. In this context, the fall of Atlantis is seen not as a tragic end, but as a necessary step in the evolution of human consciousness. The destruction of the civilization was, according to some interpretations, a cleansing of the old order, making way for a new beginning, one that would allow humanity to rise to a higher state of spiritual awareness. This new spiritual age, many believe, is on the horizon. As we continue to explore the mysteries of Atlantis and seek to understand its wisdom, we may find that the lessons of this ancient civilization are more relevant today than ever before. The advancements we have made in technology, science, and material wealth have been remarkable, but they have come at a cost. We find ourselves at a crossroads, much like the Atlanteans, where we must choose between continuing on the path of materialism and exploitation or reconnecting with the deeper spiritual truths that have been preserved through the ages. The teachings of Atlantis, if rediscovered, could guide us toward a more harmonious, balanced way of living, one that values wisdom, compassion, and spiritual growth over material gain and power. Just as the Atlanteans were said to have tapped into the forces of the universe to create a civilization of beauty and enlightenment, so too can we harness the knowledge of the past to build a future that is not just technologically advanced, but spiritually fulfilled. The knowledge of Atlantis, then, is not a relic of the past, but a living, evolving wisdom that continues to influence our world today. It is a reminder that true power comes not from domination or control, but from understanding the deeper forces of the universe and living in alignment with them. As we continue to explore the mysteries of Atlantis, we may find that the key to our own evolution lies not in the discovery of lost cities or ancient artifacts, but in the rediscovery of the sacred knowledge that has always been within us.